Okay, we're going to simulate a site visit so you can kind of get an idea of what questions people generally ask when we come out to do a site visit to kind of look at someone's property as far as where to install an underground storm shelter. So we're going to take care of most of the most commonly asked questions and kind of give you some general ideas on some things to look out for, some things to pay attention to, and some things to let us know on what you can do. Of course, the best thing you can do is take pictures of the location that you are thinking of installing the storm shelter after watching this video, so that you kind of have an idea of what things to look out for, and also then you can give us an idea by emailing us some photos in case there are some things that we need to be on the lookout for. Some of the top things right off the bat, though, we need to have access to to your yard. So as you can kind of see here, if this were your home, if we were trying to get past the fence here, we would have a problem because we're not going to be able to get our mini excavator, a little Kubota track hoe, through that opening. As you can see here, that opening is only about 3 or 4 feet, maybe 5 feet at the most. And that's going to be tough to get our Kubota tractor through. We would have to charge additional to pull out that fence in order to be able to get the tractor through that fence to get your shelter installed for you. However, there are generally 2 sides to a house, of course. So on this side you can see there are no fences. So we move these cars out of the way and we'd be able to get through here and not have to charge anything. Easy access, be able to get through to the backyard and be able to install your shelter for you. Some more things to look out for: make sure there's no overhead wires that are low hanging that we might run into. The Kubota, which I'll show you in a minute, kind of give you an idea how tall it is and the arm on it coming through. You probably want to have a 20-foot clearance or so, because if we're bringing that storm shelter through, it's basically going to have that storm shelter by chains and by straps, so it's going to be holding that up in the air as it's crawling through your yard. So kind of give you an idea on that. So what we're going to do now is go around to the back of the house and find kind of give you some pointers on some good locations and bad locations and some other things to look out for. So on the way to the backyard, we did notice here we found the underground utilities. As you can see, there's a power meter there, meter box, and of course you have your underground utilities. So in this case, we can kind of tell that this meter box is running out to a power line over here, right there. So you can kind of see that plastic conduit pipe that's coming down from that transformer, and that goes underneath the ground, obviously some way between there and here, usually in a straight line unless there's some rocks under the ground. So that's something you want to look out for. And as far as underground utilities go, rather than trying to guess and trying to estimate where you think that the underground utilities may go, that includes your underground power, underground gas, propane tanks, cable, AT&T, like your phone lines or cable or internet lines, all those kinds of things. You want to make sure that those are marked out and that you know where they're at. Now, what you can do, especially if you're in the state of Alabama, in fact, most places across the country will have this. It's called the Call Before You Dig number. And what you can do is you call 811 from Alabama. You may have to look in your local phone book or Google it to find out where in your particular area that phone number is. But it's a free service provided by your local utility company to make sure that you're not digging in your yard and electrocuting yourself and making them liable. So what they'll do is they'll come out with a couple days notice for free to mark out your utility lines. In this case, what they would do is they'd either come here and they would have some spray paint and they'd make little dashes along the ground to kind of follow where this underground utility line is buried, so that we know to look out for that and not dig in that area. Or if you let them know where you're thinking of putting the shelter, if you mark it out somewhere and you can let them know that, they'll just go to that area and put in and spray paint on your grass, cable okay or AT&T okay. So they'll kind of mark out for you, let you know that this area is free from underground utilities. Again, that's an important service because that frees you up from liability, and it also frees us up from liability, so there's no charges should we hit some kind of underground utility line and there's an explosion or something happens where they have to come out and repair the line. There's no cost to you or to us, so that's very important to make sure that's taken care of beforehand. Again, it's a free service. Generally you call 811, just dial 811 on your phone, and you'll get through to them, and they'll be able to assist you from there, or just look in your local phone book or Google it online. The Call Before You Dig is what it's called. So moving on to the back of the house here. Another thing that you want to keep in mind as well, you want to make sure that you know if you're on sewer or if you have a septic tank. Of course, septic tank is generally going to be buried somewhere in the back of your yard, and you're going to have fill lines as well. And that's something that we need to know which direction and where your fill lines are going. Again, if you're not sure about this information, what you want to do is you want to call your local building department, your inspection department, and ask them. Generally, when there's a home being built, they will have on record, there should be some kind of a sketch or a drawing to kind of illustrate where they're going to be installing the underground septic lines, so that we can know generally where to watch out for and know where there's going to be some fill lines we need to look out for, because obviously we can't be installing a storm shelter in a fill line. So those are the two most important things to kind of look out for, and to make sure that you know where those things are. Okay, so here we are in the back of this house, and we're going to demonstrate where you'd want to be looking for a good place to install a storm shelter. Now, believe it or not, a lot of people are going to believe that it should be a certain distance from your house, or it needs to be so far from your house. Really, it's a matter of personal preference. In our experience, it's very difficult to know which direction and how a tornado is going to hit. You may know which direction the storms generally come from, but again, tornadoes spin in circles, right? They're cyclonic, and therefore you're going to have debris flowing in all different directions. It may come from one way, but it's going to spin around in a circle. So if it depends on if the storm were to hit your house from the left or from the right, or a tree from the left or the right, on where that debris is going to be thrown. So there's really no good rule of thumb as far as where to install your storm shelter, or what kind of distance from your house, because you could put it all the way out in the middle of the field and still end up with having debris scattered all around the field. You just never know. Debris can fly hundreds of miles with a really bad storm. So it's very hard to tell. Really, the best rule of thumb is more your personal preference. Do you really want to be dry? Do you want to run hundreds of miles or hundreds of yards out into your field? I mean, for example, there's about 25 acres out here. You could run all the way out there and put your storm shelter right here in the middle of the field, but in the middle of a storm with all the rain and lightning and wind, do you really want to take you and your kids and your dogs and your pets and have to run several hundred yards out into the field to try and get protection from the storm? You may not make it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Really, for most people, what we'd suggest is kind of the closer to your back patio, to your back door, the better. Here's the back door of the house. What we'd suggest is this might be a good location right here next to this patio. Again, you're going to stay out of the dirt, out of the mud, and it's very easy access. You can basically just come out the back door, run down the steps here, and be in your shelter in a matter of seconds. Close the lid down behind you, secure it, lock it, and you're safe. That's what we want to see. That's what you want to do, is make sure that you can get your family protected as quickly and safely as possible. And really, it's much easier the less elements you have to battle against, the less wind, rain, and snow, or whatever, depending on the storm. So here you can kind of see, I'll zoom out a little bit, give you a better idea. This little patio will be perfect. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my measuring tape out, and I'm going to show you approximately how much space you need to look for to make sure that this is a good area. Now again, we would have made sure that before we were to install this storm shelter, that you had the utilities come out to mark out true lines. And we're assuming there are no septic or fill lines back here in this general area. There are no underground utility lines in this area. And basically, if we dig right here, we can dig down 65 inches. That's 65 inches for a smaller storm shelter like the 4-person or 6-person. Or if we're going to be digging anywhere from an 8, 10, or 12-person storm shelter, we're going to need to go down almost 8 feet. So it's a pretty good size hole. One other thing to keep in mind as well is dirt. Of course, as we displace that much dirt digging that hole, we're not only going to need a location to store the dirt temporarily as we're digging the hole, but there is going to be some leftover dirt. Now, if we have to take that dirt away and haul it off for you, there's going to be a $100 charge, and because it's going to be about a small dump truck worth of dirt. We're going to have to bring out some additional equipment to fill up to be able to store and haul away the extra dirt for you. So that's why there's an additional charge for that. So be conscious of that. If you have some low-lying areas, or some areas where you don't mind spreading the dirt around, we can easily. I'll show you the equipment we use to install for most installs here in a minute. But generally, there's a blade on the front of the tractor, and we can push dirt around a little bit, but we don't have any way of really picking it up and moving it, halfway across your property. So we can't do that, but we can spread it out for you, feather it out around the shelter if you like, or just leave it in a pile for you if you want to go ahead and use that dirt for your garden, or fill in some low-lying areas, like over here, for example. So what we're going to do, I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to measure out approximately, kind of give you an idea of how we can install a shelter for you. Okay, so we've determined this is probably going to be one of the best spots to install a storm shelter, and this is actually our on-site facility. So what we're going to do is we're going to probably install one here to kind of give people an idea of what an installed storm shelter looks like off their back patio. So we'll be doing that here in the near future. So to kind of give you an idea, let's suppose that we're going to install one of our 6-person storm shelters. What we're going to do is we're going to have to measure off about 10 feet wide by about 12 feet long. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and measure that out to kind of give you an idea. Now, first thing to keep in mind is where do you want the lid of your shelter to go? Because that's all it's going to be showing. Again, it's anywhere from a 2-foot by 6-foot shelter or lid for the refuge, or a 3x5 for the lifesaver. So what you want to do is first locate where that lid you want to go, because that's the only thing that's going to be visible once we finish installing the shelter. Again, if you're coming outside the house, I'll demonstrate. If it's thundering and lightning out, you want to make sure that obviously you can get into your shelter quickly. So you come down the stairs, you just do this in your own house, come out your back door and think, okay, how would I want to get into my shelter? And knowing that, it's going to be about 10 feet wide, about 5-6 feet out, you're going to want to have the handle pretty close right here. It's a lifesaver, so you can open it up and go straight down in. Or if it's a refuge storm shelter, you'll be able to have, again, the lid facing the same direction. You can come out here from the side, turn the lid, it'll open sideways, and you can just walk right down into the inside. Now, a couple other pointers to keep in mind. If we're installing off the back of your house, you have to also keep in mind you're going to have to allocate an additional 3 or 4 feet away from the edge of your house to accommodate and to compensate to make sure we're not undermining your foundation. We don't want to get too close to your footer. So for that reason, since we're digging such a deep hole, we're going to have to dig away at least 3 to 4 feet from your house is where the start of the hole is going to be. So, for example, if we were installing, suppose you didn't have this back deck and you had the back of your house came to this point right here, we would have to go out 3 or 4 feet from the edge of your house, so probably to about right here, where we can even start digging the hole. And so the shelter would be right here. You'd have to be probably about 7-8 feet before you can actually get into your shelter. So keep that in mind as well. Now, for just a back patio, some kind of just a porch like this is fine. It's only going to be down a couple inches, so we can actually put the lid of the shelter right up to the side here of the concrete. Now, a caveat with that, if you're looking at the 10-person or 20-person lifesaver storm shelter, again, that's the one that has the stairs that go down through the middle of the shelter. It's not going to have the stairs on the side. That, obviously, the stairs are off the top. So we would have to put the lid right in the middle of the hole, obviously. So, but for most of the shelters, we can put the lid right up to the actual edge of your patio within a couple inches or so. So here's what we're going to do. Suppose we want the lid right here, okay? So to give you an idea, we're looking at, for the lifesaver storm shelter, your lid's going to be looking about like this. We can do it like flat like that if you like. And then 5 feet, you're looking like about right there. So this is about how big your lid's going to be. That's all you're going to see is this green lid right here, for example. Now for the refuge, it's going to be a little bit split longer and a little bit more narrow, but it's going to be roughly the same. You have a white lid instead of a green lid. So if we're going to do the 6-person storm shelter like we said, we're going to have to dig a hole 10 feet wide. So we would measure out for you on a site visit 10 feet. Okay? And since it's just rock and garden over there, we can actually dig right up to your garden. So if you want to do it like that, that would be the width of the hole. Here's 5 feet, so this would be the center of your lid, right here. And then 1.5 feet on each side. So this would be the exact location of where your lid's going to go. So that would be the width. What we will do is we'll either take like a metal flag with a little a pole with a flag on it, stick it in the corners, and then we'll measure out. The other dimension, which is going to be 12 feet. And there you see it. So you're looking at a spot about this big, so right about here probably or so. If I had flags with me I could show you, but this is about going to be the size of the hole that you can expect for your storm shelter. So even for that smaller 6-person shelter, it's going to take up this much space. So this is all going to be dirt when we're finished with it. You can plant seed over the top of it, let it grow back as grass. You can pour concrete over it once it's settled, or you can put mulch around the side, you can put rocks. We've seen it all. You can do whatever you want with that dirt. You can even ride a lawnmower over the top of it. It's not going to hurt it. It's only going to stick out of the ground about 3 or 4 inches. Now, if you've seen from the other videos that we've shot, you'll see that the 6-person storm shelter is not 10 feet wide. So why do we dig a hole that has to be 10 feet wide? Well, the actual poles, the way that we installed the smaller storm shelters, the 4 to 6, we actually use these 2-post pipes that we throw through the bottom of the shelter. You've seen the videos that we filmed, where you can see the holes in the bottom of the shelter. They're not actually poles. I mean, they're pipes that are attached to the bottom of the shelter, and we put put these pipes through those pipes, and that kind of anchors it down into the ground and allows us to put some weight on top of it. So they're 9 feet long pipes, so the hole needs to be 10 feet wide so we can lower it down into the hole, and then we take our concrete blocks, which are roughly 2 feet wide by like 7 feet long and about a foot or two thick, several thousand pounds of concrete to anchor them down into the hole. We'll lower them down on top and set them on top of the steel pipes, and from there we backfill the dirt. Once it's all level, make sure that it's all to grade. So that's why we need a hole about 10 feet wide even for the smaller storm shelters. And of course the 12 foot is just because of the length of the shelter with the stairs to accommodate for that. And that is how we would do a site visit. The question you may have as well is, what about if you're in a low-lying area? What if you're concerned about heavy rains or flooding? What if you had water running across your property? Are you exempt from being able to have a storm shelter on your property? The answer is no. We can still install one of our underground storm shelters. Potential heavy rains that kind of have a tendency to leave puddles. All that we do, the shelter itself is already going to be about 3 or 4 inches above the ground. Anyway. So the vents are going to be about 3 inches or so above the water. So standing after heavy rain or something, you should be okay. But if you're concerned about it, we can easily raise the entire shelter up. We just won't dig a hole quite as deep. Again, it's not going to impact the integrity of the shelter, it's not going to impact the safety of it or its ability to withstand an F5 tornado. It just won't be as low in the ground. The dirt out, there's a lot of extra dirt that we'll have. We can spread it out so it's not obvious that there is a little bit of an incline, and so that way we'll kind of level it off for you, feather it out. But to give you an idea, you can kind of see here is a little bit lower lying ground right there. So if you're looking at a location for installing your storm shelter, we would suggest you want to look for the higher areas of your yard. So if you're right on your back door, your back patio is a low-lying area, that is an exception where we would maybe want to go further out from your yard. If you have like maybe a hill that's higher up that does not get wet. So if that ends up being another 20, 30 feet or 40 yards, if it has to be, if it's out here and it's a little bit higher off the ground because that area is going to be all saturated with water, then we'll go ahead and we'll install it there. But again, we can raise the entire shelter up about 6 inches to a foot if necessary, or just a couple inches if that's what you prefer. But we're going to rely on your experience with the property to let us know how much water is ever standing at the worst case, so that we can make sure to raise it up high enough to prevent any water from filling in the shelter, going into the vents at the very top. So make sure to let us know about that as well, of any flood or potential flooding concerns. Okay, when we install our storm shelters, the underground storm shelters, this is one of the machines that we're going to use to do your installation work. It's a Kubota mini excavator, so it's got a real small imprint. It's got rubber tracks, so we're not tearing up your yard, and it's got a relatively narrow and small width to it, so that way we can get through most gates or fences. If you do have a gate or a fence, make sure that it's a double wide gate, and make sure it's at least 8 feet, if not 10 feet wide. So make sure you take a measuring tape and measure the opening of that fence. Make sure it's at least, or that gate rather, make sure it's at least 8 feet wide. If it's not, there's potential we may have to detach some of your fence in order to get the machine and the shelter through. Okay. Now, as you can see, this arm right here, you can kind of see I'm 6 foot tall, and this arm is going to be pretty tall. Once it goes up a little bit higher, you can imagine it's going to be carrying the actual storm shelter with chains or with the straps. And the shelter itself, it's about 7 or 8 feet tall itself. So this arm has potential to get up to almost 20 feet high, so we need to make sure that we have enough clearance so we can get through to the backyard, through your side yard. If there's branches, let us know. Or if there's low-hanging wires, we need to know about that as well to make sure we can measure the clearance and make sure there's going to be enough space for this machine and the storm shelter to get through. Again, so mini Kubota, or a Kubota mini track hoe, mini excavator. And as you can see, it has a blade here on the front. It doesn't actually have a scoop. So when it comes to doing any kind of removing the dirt and things, all we can do is kind of use this blade here. It shifts left and it shifts right. We can't actually scoop any dirt up and relocate it to your property. So if that is something that you need us to do, we can move it around at no cost if it's just kind of, just to the left or the right or a little bit over there. But if this arm digging that hole can't move that dirt any further than a certain location, we'll have to bring out some heavier equipment in order to put this into the back of a dump truck or a dump trailer and relocate it either somewhere else on your property, or if we have to move it away, like we said before. So just a couple other things to keep in mind.